tuning in for some movie reviews. Film flickers of movie reviews. Let's hear those movie reviews. Film flickers of movie reviews. And action.
Hello flickers! Today we're reviewing a fairly recent film. It's just come out on Blu-ray, and that is Marvel's Ant-Man. Ant-Man's the story of a small-time thief called Scott Lang, who, after getting out of jail, decides to go straight, tries his hands at various jobs, but ends up getting fired after they find out what his record is. He's trying to get to know his daughter, but is being blocked because his wife and her new husband, who is a police officer, are refusing to let him see him while he is still in the state he's in. So Scott decides to do one more job to try and get some money together to try and pay back his wife for child support and to get a chance of seeing his child. Now he decides to do a plan that his friend Lewis comes up with, which is to rob an old man's house who apparently has this very nice looking safe, which must therefore be full of really good stuff because it's a nice looking safe. And the job goes ahead and Scott breaks into the house, but all he finds is what he believes to be a very strange looking motorcycle outfit. And from then on he gets in contact with Hank Pym, who is actually the guy who owns both the house and the outfit, and that's how the story starts. Now, as it turns out, of course, the suit that Scott has stolen is the Ant-Man suit, which Hank Pym wants Scott to use to stop his technology from being recreated by a fairly evil megalomaniac who is now in charge of his company. This kicks off into a bit of a madcap adventure where Scott tries to learn to use the suit in its various functions, and they try to go for a plan that will effectively save the world. Ant-Man himself is not a very well-known character, especially not when you compare him to the likes of Thor and Iron Man, but he was one of the original Avengers, and it's interesting though seeing Marvel willing to take these risks, same as they did with Guardians of the Galaxy, which turned out to be an incredible film and do really well for them. But they're willing to put these lesser known characters into the cinema to see how they do, and they're willing to give lots of directors and actors a chance to get into the Marvel universe. And it paid off again on this. Peyton Reed has done an incredible directing job. The script was originally written by Edgar Wright, who unfortunately parted with the project, but you can tell his fairly light touches on the script. I'm a huge Edgar Wright fan, and I can see his touches all over the film. You probably can as well, especially if you're fans of things like Shaun of the Dead or Scott Pilgrim. And it's brilliant to see. It's a very, not light-hearted exactly, but it's definitely got a lot of humour on it. If that's one of the things you didn't like about the Marvel Universe, if you prefer the DC way of doing it where things tend to be quite dark, then you're probably not going to enjoy this film, and it is a shame because it's got lots of action, lots of humour, and so a brilliant cast as well. The casting in fact is superb. Paul Rudd as Scott Lang is incredible. I mean, the role kind of fits him anyway. He's always playing these like lovable rogue style characters, and this takes that just a little bit of a step further, and he plays up to the role incredibly well. He comes across as genuinely as a guy that has done things wrong in the past but is trying to make up for it, and it gets obviously some of the best one-liners in it. Evangeline Lilly plays Hank Pym's estranged daughter, who is acting like she's still antagonistic towards her father so she can remain close to the main bad guy, Darren Cross, played by the excellent Corey Stoll. You may have seen him if you watch House of Cards. He is a fantastic actor, and I really hope that this means he will get a lot more acting work. Now, of course, almost the main draw of this film is Michael Douglas, who plays Hank Pym. I'll say it now, I'm not a huge Michael Douglas fan. Most of his roles are very similar, and they tend to be quite smarmy characters. And that's very different in this film. He plays instead a very committed, devoted scientist who he's lost a lot in his life, and he is willing to lose more to help humanity. And it's a brilliant acting job. Some of the first scenes with him in where He's been altered so he looks younger, because they're taking place in the past, and the effect is brilliant, and he plays it exceptionally well. As you can probably guess, I love this film. It's probably one of my favourite films of last year, maybe even my favourite film of last year. It's certainly one of my favourite Marvel films. It just has a really good mix of humour and action, and the cast it's got to be some of the best casting that Marvel have done yet. I can't wait. We already know that Ant-Man is in Civil War, and I genuinely can't wait to see how it happens. Hopefully Evangeline Lilly will also be in Civil War, because we see in one of the after-credit scenes, and they do include both after-credit scenes that were in the cinema, which is brilliant. We see her going with Hank to look at another costume, a costume that he was designing for originally for her mother. And that seems to suggest that she's going to be the Wasp, which was Hank Pym's wife in the comic books. And that would be brilliant, because like I say, she was fantastic, and I think there will be a genuinely great addition to the Civil War cast. Although that is looking quite big, so let's hope we don't break another director. So it is a great film, but it's not without flaws. There are plot holes, but you kind of expect that with superhero films. But certain ones, like the whole science explained behind the shrinking is that the particles, atoms are closer together, they become more dense, which is why Scott can still punch somebody harder than he could if he was fully grown, even though he's tiny. But I mean, if the density has increased, which is how they explain it, then the little tank pendant that Hank has on his keyring, surely if that was a real tank, then that will suddenly be even heavier than a tank and be harder to carry. There's little things like that, I'm sure that they could come up with a decent explanation, but it doesn't detract from the film. There's nothing really that kills the mood. I think the only problem they really have is in their casting. There is although it's great, there is a certain amount of balancing issues. For instance, one of Scott's friends is a guy called Luis. He's played by Michael Pena, who steals every single scene he's in, which is always a bit of an issue. He's not one of the main characters, so it's also always a bit of a shocker when suddenly you're focusing much more on him than anyone else. The other thing we see is the arrival of the Falcon. You probably recognise him from the Avengers. He's played again by Anthony Mackie, and the scene he's in was in the main film, but he's also in one of the after-credit scenes. Is great, and it really does help tie the two universes together. But again, it kind of feels like you're supposed to be concentrating on him in the scene that he's in, rather than Ant-Man, who is supposed to be the main guy of the film. So it's an issue, but you can understand that it's one they probably couldn't have got away from in that case. Though, I mean, the other people in the film, they're kind of they're glossed over. I mean, the absolutely brilliant Judy Greer is in it, who was fantastic in Arrested Development, and one of my favourite TV series, Archer. She does a voice in that. But she's kind of just there in the background. She's Scott's ex-wife, and that's pretty much her label, and it's like it's stamped straight across the screen when she's there. So it's a shame that you see somebody of her calibre not really given a chance to step up. But it was always going to happen. It's an origin story for a superhero, so it was never going to be truly deep. Well, should you watch this? Yes, you should. If as long as you like the way Marvel make superhero films, basically, as long as you don't mind the fact that there will be humour, then you should definitely go and find this film. The Blu-ray is pretty good. The version I've got there has got the 3D and the 2D version on it. I watched the 2D version because my 3D glasses have all been broken, and I've got the very old 3D set where the glasses still cost more than the TV itself. The features are really good. The audio commentary by Peyton Reed and Paul Rudd is superb. There are a lot of cut scenes. It's unusual for a film. You look at them and you think, well, I don't really mind they weren't there. They're good scenes, but the film is so action-packed really that you can kind of understand why they had to cut quite a lot out of it. There's also a gag reel, which it's okay. The film's a funny film anyway. Paul Rudd's a funny guy. So the gag reel, it kind of comes across as being a little bit, hey, let's have a gag reel on our Blu-ray, make sure you do something funny. Which, for all these big films, they all feel like that. But it's still a worthwhile addition, and I definitely recommend checking it out. Well, thanks again for watching this video. We genuinely appreciate it. Thanks to everyone that subscribed. It's just incredible that you've done that and you're willing to watch our videos. We're forever grateful to you. Bye, Flickers. Thanks for watching the video, and if you did like it, then please hit the like button, and if you want to see more from us, then please hit subscribe.
And don't forget to leave a comment below, and if you've got any suggestions for films that we should be reviewing in the future, please leave us a nice little message. Oh, and check out our previous videos.